think there's no question that Israel is in a position militarily now where it can act as a bully in the region. And we don't want to underestimate the importance of Israel's alliance with the United States. I mean, the two of them act as a tag team in the region. And that's a huge force multiplier for the Israelis. I have a slightly different view of this than you do. And I believe that if you go back to the period after Israel was created, the Israelis have had a deep-seated interest in basically wrecking all of their Arab neighbors. What's happening now to Syria, or what's happened to Syria over the past year and a half, is what the Israelis would like to do to Iran. They want to fracture their neighbors, break them apart if possible. When the Israelis talk about regime change in Iran, they're talking about more than regime change. They want to break Iran into constituent parts. The Israelis, for example, have had a deep-seated interest in creating a Kurdish state. And I've always wondered why the Israelis were interested in creating a Kurdish state and paying so much attention to Kurdish nationalism. It's because if you created a Kurdish state, you would break apart Iraq, Iran, Syria, and even Turkey. And this has long been their goal. It's a divide and conquer policy. So I think it's just important to understand that they do want to be the most powerful state in the region, as you were alluding to. But it's more than that. They believe that the way to do that is to be joined at the hip with the United States, number one. Number two, be the only state in the region that has nuclear weapons. Number three, be by far the most powerful conventional force in the region. And number four, break apart their rivals, or put their rivals in a position where they're heavily dependent on the United States. This is what they've done with Jordan and with Egypt. Jordan and Egypt have hardly any maneuver room vis-a-vis Israel because they're economically dependent on Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam has told them that if they challenge Israel in any way, the United States will make them pay economically. So that's how you deal with Egypt and Jordan. And with countries like Syria, countries like Lebanon, countries like Iran, countries like Iraq, the basic goal there is to wreck those countries, to break them apart, to make them dysfunctional. And that's the second goal. That's the regime change goal when you dig down deep. The bombing campaign by Israel against Iran, which started, of course, on June 13th, has had exactly the opposite effect in terms of the leadership of Iran. The hardliners have taken over. The Revolutionary Guards are in control more than they ever were. The Ayatollah Khamenei has been weakened because he's been forced to basically go into hiding, and he's not in a position where he can command the country in any meaningful way. And furthermore, all the evidence is that the people are rallying around the flag. And we have a rich history of this happening every time a country launches a bombing campaign against another country for the purposes of regime change. We have a rich historical record here, and there is not a single instance, I want to emphasize, not a single instance where bombing from the air alone has caused regime change. And all the evidence is that it causes a rally around the flag effect. So the idea that the Israelis are going to cause regime change with their air campaign is not a serious argument. And if you look at what's happened over the past 12 days, it has not turned out that the country is on the verge of regime change. If anything, the regime is in a better situation today than it was on June 12th, the day before the campaign started. So this is a failure. What happened there is that you had a ground war, right? We didn't have to invade, but we had proxies who had gone to war against Gaddafi, and we then came in with air power. But here the argument is that you come in with air power, there's no revolution, there's no war on the ground, and air power precipitates a revolution. That doesn't happen. Again, to go back to the Libya case, the revolution had already started. There was, or the rebellion, call it what you want, and there was a huge ground war taking place. And that's when air power came in. And in those sorts of circumstances, you can do it, but not in this case. We could not do a regime change in Iraq from the air. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. Remember shock and awe? We went in with shock and awe. It didn't lead to regime change. We had to go in, conquer the country, and then spend months looking for Saddam Hussein. The fact is that they have not been able to do it up to now. And after what's happened over the past 12 days, the regime has every incentive to crack down on those groups and make sure that they can't cause any trouble. Now, can I say with 100% certainty that there won't be an uprising in 6 months or 12 months? No, I can't. It's very hard to say how this plays out over time inside of Iran. But the fact is that there is no evidence now of an uprising, and you also have a regime that has powerful incentives to make sure that that remains the case for the foreseeable future. So I don't think you're going to get regime change. But Glenn, then the question pops up, what happens if you do get regime change? What's the happy ending here? Are you telling me that we're going to get a new regime that is going to say, we don't want nuclear weapons. We don't want to cause Israel or the United States any trouble in the region. And we're going to behave ourselves according to the dictates of Israel. You think that's going to happen? This is not going to happen. I would also point out to you, of course, when the revolution in Iran took place in 1979, it was the Shah who was overthrown. The Shah had an ambitious nuclear program, and the Shah was committed to acquiring nuclear weapons. And the reason is that it makes sense from Iran's point of view to have nuclear weapons. Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel and former defense minister as well, once said that he believed that Iran was pursuing nuclear weapons because it made so much sense. Just think about that statement. He, of course, is a very smart man, and he is correct. It makes eminently good sense for Iran to have nuclear weapons. I have said on numerous occasions in public that if I had been the Iranian national security advisor, they would have nuclear weapons today. I mean, the lesson of the past 12 days is that Iran was foolish not to get nuclear weapons, in my opinion. And the lesson now is to go out and get nuclear weapons. Because if you had nuclear weapons, the Israelis and the Americans would not attack you.